Okay, Angela, so it looks like we're going to have some fun trimming some hats.
Yeah, we are.
So how are we going to start this?
We're going to overcast the edges. So they're a little bit raw here. And we're going to overcast with the ribbon.
Okay.
I'm going to starch it up to give
So
it
you're
some more
giving it a
body.
little spray starch?
Yeah, just to give it a little body.
That looks like beer you're putting on it. Is that a home brew?
No, it's Terreal Magic, but I just put it in the little
That's a good idea.
Yeah, instead of a mister. I have the mister at home, but I didn't want to drag.
So this will make the also give you a little less slippage with the.
Here, brush that off.
And we can brush it off afterwards
Yeah.
too. It'll come off.
Okay.
So we're just going to fold it in half, and then
Then we're gonna get a couple clips. I think just hold it in place.
clips, also known as miniature clothespins.
Yes.
Now I would press that in half.
Yeah, that might be a better idea.
I mean, but I want to know how you're going to do it. But you think pressing it in half would be easier?
Yeah.
I think it'd be easier.
Normally you just kind of roll with it.
Now we had a choice. We have blue silk that we could cut on the bias and basically make a binding edge, but we decided that we liked the contrast of the black because we have other ideas for later color. I think that's going to be easier for you to manage. And if you hear some sound effects in the background, Annabelle's finally decided to take her nap. She just realized that, oh yeah, they're going to sew in a minute.
Yeah, she knows I'm not going to be giving her any treats.
Well, you already did that.
I know.
She,
I spoiled her a little bit.
yes, you certainly did.
Just to kind of get you guys started.
Yeah, once you start, you kind of, it'll go pretty fast. So you're just going to do an overcast stitch, basically, going from one side of the ribbon to the other. What size needle are you working with?
I'm actually using a milliner's needle.
Oh, okay. Well, that makes sense. This is millinery.
Yeah, it's a very, you can tell it's a bendy needle.
Oh, nice. Okay.
And it's very thin.
Where can they find those?
This is, let me see. This one is a Bowen. So that's the name of I name mine. So this is the name of the maker, and then the sharps and a border needle, and here's the milliner's. It's a milliner size 10.
Okay, milliner size 10. And everybody, look at that little setup. That this is a serious sewer here. Because it does, I can even see that it has a little bit of give.
Yeah, so then that way you can maneuver it and you're not poking yourself. You can kind of move it to the side. Not even using a thimble because it's kind of...
Well, and
bending.
actually this looks very thick and hard to deal with, but it's actually pretty easy to sew into, in my opinion. What do you think?
It is. It's not hard.
I mean, I've done some hats in the past where it's like, oh my God, you need a jackhammer to get the needle in.
You give yourself space in between each stitch. Sometimes you'll get lint.
Well, this they probably will, because this is a wool, so they'll get, it's a wool and silk blend, so they'll get.
And that's okay. But since it's...
That's a good idea with the clips.
Yeah, so then that way it's like an extra hand. You could just keep sewing
You
away.
always have great tips because, you know, I usually just suffer and deal with it. But the clips are really a good. I mean, I think they could basically even use a clothesline hip. I mean, it doesn't have to be these minis, but the minis are nice to have in your travel kit. I've been using the same clothespins for 30 years. You know, I have a big Easter basket and that I have my tools in, and the clips are all around the handle. But I noticed that I lose them regularly, and it's not me. It's other people.
They're just borrowing them.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Well, we'll finish this and we'll come back and show everyone what we achieved. But basically, you're just doing an overcasting stitch right on the edge, and then you'll go in and do the inside, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right, we'll be back.
So we found that the bottom fabric is escaping the tarlatan, or the lining here. Buckram. It's buckram. You tie it.
And we're going to overcast. It's probably the good idea to do that first.
Yeah, I would.
But we're just having a fun afternoon making hats, so we're not. We didn't get the instruction manual out. So you're just going to overcast that.
Yeah, I'm gonna do it this
and
way.
I think it helps give the edge a little more substance too.
And normally you would do that if you had a wire around it. You would overcast.
And you could absolutely put a millinery wire in on the edge, but I have found that it's not really necessary. It can hold the shape that you want. You're just doing, you know, broad right at the edge.
Just whip it around. Make sure you pull it so it's taut. So that way when you're going over with the ribbon and over casting, you won't have any lumps. Oops.
All right, well, we'll finish this up, and then we will come back.
Okay, so we have a 1 by 6 inch strip, and we're going to fold it 1/8 of an inch. And we're
Now,
going...
wait a minute, though. You've got to show us what did you just finish?
Oh, yeah. So here is the overcasting we did with the ribbon, and you could see.
And it looks really good. You did a nice job.
And you know, sometimes if it looks off, it's because of the way that the fabric pulls, and you can just kind of adjust it so it's more even across, and then you can iron it later.
But we have still more things
Yes,
to do to that
we have.
little edge.
But that's final touches, and we're not going to do that. We're going to do the interlining here inside the hat. I'm going to iron this.
So you're folding over, it looks like about an eighth
It's
of
an
an
eighth
inch.
of an inch.
Mhm.
And we're going to do it on both sides.
We should probably do the ends too.
Yes, we'll do the ends. I just want to fold here. You want to go all the way around, do it in an eighth.
And we're doing this just for fun, and we're doing this in silk, but normally I usually do this in like a batiste.
Some of the linings were done in silk
Oh,
too.
sure.
So you could do whatever you want.
But they were meant to be removed and replaced.
Yes.
Because hair had all those wonderful, lard, duck fat, bear grease.
All the oils.
Yeah.
Pomade, hair colors.
Oh, yeah, you name it.
Okay, so I have this little thing. It's just called a spudger. I use it with my tools. I'm gonna hold it down. It's heat resistant.
So it's kind of like, it looks like a little end of a screwdriver.
Yeah, I use it for my when I'm fixing either my phone or.
Show it to me. So it's a.
It's a spudger. And so the end here also has a point. This is all heat resistant. So if you're dealing with little corners, you can get into there.
Oh, nice.
So
But it's not really a sewing tool.
no, it's not. It's for electronics, but
Okay.
I've repurposed it.
It's called a spudger.
It's spudger. And they're very inexpensive. Hold it down. And then you could do this too.
Oh, nice. Well, you're the one that got me onto these crickets, which I love. The crickets. That's my actual own cricket there.
And I'm gonna go again.
It's like having a little set of tiny little fingers.
Yes, that you don't burn yourself, because you know that cricket can get hot.
It's a great little tool.
Yeah, and I don't like to burn myself. Okay, so then we're going to sew this here.
Now there's a little ledge in there. Do you feel that?
I can. So if I pull it, you could kind of see.
Yeah.
There it is.
So
And
you're going to just sew it right up to that little ledge.
I'm going to stab stitch all around. Got my needle. I'm going to do it this way.
I find for me in hat making, this little step right here is the most work.
Yes, and you can hurt yourself if you're not careful. So always make sure that your fingers are not in the way.
So you're taking little tinies on the inside.
Mm-hmm. And then bigger stitches on the outside.
Because those will all be covered when we put the band on it. And normally we would be using white thread for this, but because it'll show up better for our viewers using the contrast. Well, we'll get this sewn up and then we'll show you the next step.
So what I did as I got further towards where my starting point was and I overlapped, I put the inside of the cap inside out so that I could match it, and you know
It'll spring back.
right, it'll spring right back. So you know you could do that. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna lift it up and then we're gonna go around and running stitch and pull it through.
And we're doing it just like they did in the old ones. I've seen a lot of reproduction hats where they do this and they glue this in place.
No.
Yes, they do. It's a good way to know whether it's the real deal or not.
Okay. So go in. I'm just going to do a little running stitch and then pull it.
You just did a little back stitch there.
Yeah, just to secure it. Then,
And you're doing really small stitches.
and you can with this little millinery.
I'm gonna have to get some of those.
It's nice because you can collect a bunch of stitches on one.
Yes. You cost me money every time you come here.
I'm
'Cause you have all these great gadgets.
I'm always looking for new things.
Well, you have to have good tools.
Yeah, that's part of it. I know that when I was hand sewing for Flora and Fanny, I found that working with a thin long needle like this helps a lot. Yeah.
You've done a few costumes already, haven't you?
Mm-hmm.
Good.
I know, and I was bad. I would do French seams and rolled hems.
You know what? You can have as much fun with it as you like. What? That's not bad.
No.
It's a good thing to do those.
And you could do it on the sewing machine. You just don't have to be like me, like a glutton for punishment, wanting to do
Well,
all the
you can do
fancy
both.
things. Yeah.
You can do both.
And it's just part of learning and getting experience in the different techniques. And sometimes it's just fun just to see how you can, what kind of look you get, the difference.
You're doing what, about eight stitches per inch?
Yeah.
So they're nice little small ones.
And then tie it off once you get it nice tight.
Yeah, I'd pull it all together.
So I'm gonna take another one here. And then your interlining is done. See? Goes right back to the shape that you want it to.
Looks really good. And if you're doing this at home, you're going to be doing this in white thread, so that
Right.
it's not going to show, but we wanted you to be able to see the stitches. All right, so what's next?
I guess we're gonna start with decorating.
The fun part?
Yes, the part that everyone loves about doing hats, not this, the foundation.
Yeah, the foundation. You've done all that hard work. All right, we will get that ready, and we'll be right back.
Okay, so what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna iron this a little bit, because what we're gonna do is we're gonna go over it.
This picot trim
And we're gonna sew it in. We're gonna go and apply it on both sides.
But we'll do one side at a time.
Right, yeah.
That's how I would do it.
So you can pin it, you can, because if you have a whole skein like we have here.
Which they won't get that.
Right. Whatever amount that you get, you want to make sure that, one, that you're not going to run out.
Right.
Or because you're going to cut too much. It'd be good if you pin it or you
I think your
clip
little
it.
clamps are really good.
Yeah. And then that way, and then I'll use some pins for the rest of it. So you get an idea as to how much that you're going to cut, and you're going to need to overlap because you don't want to waste this really nice trim. See, I don't like doing it that way. I'll do it this way.
And this is going to be just in this one kit, because this came from Australia, and it was from a closeout of a. So I cannot get this again.
Yes, so be very careful.
Yes, and it's going to be measured out. Maybe just a couple inches to spare.
So I'm going to just give myself a little bit of wiggle room.
Yeah, it's always a good idea.
And you don't need to stab stitch the entire thing. You could just take a little bit from the top ribbon so you're not going all the way through.
No, yeah, I agree with you.
And you can, especially with this needle. If you used a different needle, like a sharp, it'll be too thick. It's not going to give you that give.
It needs to be a needle that's long enough and has enough bendiness to it. Almost like a curved needle.
Mm-hmm. Like a beading needle would work, but a beading needle is a little
Thin.
A little too thin. It's too brittle.
Well, we'll have in the boutique some millinery needles that they can buy, just for convenience.
Yeah, these are my favorite makers. They're a French company making needles since I think 1840.
So they're new at it.
Yeah.
They're a new company.
They're a new company. So just take some at the
I mean,
top.
it goes in very
Yeah.
easy. It's not hard to do. We just don't want the stitches going through the other side.
And you can see what I'm doing is like a tiny little back stitch and then going forward a nice long stitch there.
We'll get this sewn on and then we will show you what we've done. Those little clamps are a nice little item to have.
I should have brought more, but I forgot where I put the rest of them.
Oh, welcome to my world. Angela's made us some gorgeous shoes. Absolutely gorgeous. I put them in a place where I wouldn't lose them. And they have not been seen since. All right, well, we'll get this sewn and we'll show you what we've done.
Okay, so we finished attaching the braid all around and on the bottom. And what we're gonna do now is we're gonna use that same braid on about a 23-inch silk ribbon. And you're gonna wanna have the same amount, and we're going to sew on the middle of this ribbon. And then we're going to apply and make a bow and apply it around the brim here.
So we've got quite a bit of sewing to do.
Yeah, we do. So, and you want to be very gentle because you don't want to pull hard on this silk ribbon because then you'll have holes.
Right.
So if you want to go ahead and spray it to that,
Do you
that
think
would
we
be good.
probably should
Yeah,
spray
I'm
it?
going to spray it.
So you're going to use a little Terril magic on it? Although it looks like beer.
You gotta hide a little bit. And don't spray too much because then it gets sticky.
Yeah, just a light
Yeah.
misting of it. And if it does flaky, we can just
Yeah.
wipe that off. And the stains you see on the mat are not actually stains. Those are burn marks when I leave the iron too long. But the crickets do shut off, so it doesn't get bad enough to cause any damage.
But that's how hot this thing can get.
It's
really good.
when I love the little holder that it has. I just have to remember to put it back in the holder.
See, I didn't even need to wait until it turned red because it's already hot enough to go ahead and press. So now we're just gonna sew. Again, be gentle.
Just do a little running stitch.
Yeah, tiny running stitch down the middle. So I am going to grab one of my threads. This is my magnetic mat that I have. So I'm going to go from the bottom. I'm going to do one back stitch, secure, and then just take big running stitches. So one small, one big. Same thing that you were doing before with the stab stitch. And again, be very, very gentle.
It makes a nice decorative element. Well, we'll get this sewn up and then we'll show them the next step.
Okay, so now that we've finished going down, look how pretty that came out.
I love that,
So
that trim.
we're gonna make a bow where we're gonna make,
And we're just doing this freehand.
yeah.
Did you ever work doing packaging?
No.
No, you didn't work
No.
at gift wrap?
Nope.
You just go in and do it. You either have it or you don't.
So I'm gonna try to, so here I go this way. I'm gonna fold it in, but I want all this to kind of show. So I'm gonna make it a little bit bigger here and a little bit bigger here. And you're gonna want to turn this slightly. So hold it and then turn. And then you're gonna want to turn this one also.
So we're twisting in the opposite direction.
And I've got these, you could use like a hemostat if you want, like if you're getting ready your thread, if you don't have that ready, because I'm gonna knot it.
That holds it nicely while
Yeah.
you're... Mm-hmm.
So,
Another set of hands.
yep, and I'm gonna go in. Then what I'm gonna do is gonna tie it off. And then I'm gonna do the other side the same way.
So we're making a nice big 1910, 12, 13 bow. Almost like Mickey Mouse ears. If you hear snoring in the background, Annabelle's on her third nap today. And if you hear sound of tape, that's David in the packing room, packing up floras and fannies.
And you could do this.
Yeah, I like to do that as a,
And then
just get a sharpness.
yeah, and then I'll go ahead and I'll go through again. And then
And you're using your millinery needle for this?
yeah, tie it off. And you're done. And to kind of cover it up, look how pretty that came out.
Oh yeah, that looks really great.
Then you can go and then just do the same thing around so it covers it up, and then you can sew it. And then we'll go around. Let me use my tweezers again. Because sometimes you get things just right and then you need to let it go.
That's right. That's right.
You're like,
Don't overthink it. And that's the thing about doing hats, decorating hats. You don't want to overthink it. You just
No.
want to have it be, exuberant and artistic. Those of you with very sharp hearing, you can hear that Annabelle's cheeks are flapping right now.
I think that's the funniest thing.
Oh, yeah. They used to have that in the cartoons. I think one of the Looney Tunes was a bulldog, and he did that. And I always thought it was fake until you have bulldogs and you see them doing that.
There you
All right, well, we'll come back and watch you place this.
Okay, so now what you do is you're gonna tack down the end of the ribbon to the bow, to the hat. And then what I also did was I tacked down over here, and then you can move this up
Any way you want.
anyway. And look how pretty this is.
Okay, that's looking good. Mhm. And of course, when we pin it on, it'll look
better.
We'll get it just right. So what's the next step?
So the next step is we're gonna curl some feathers here.
Curling feathers.
So you could see here's a bunch of them that was already done. Michael did these, so let's see if I can.
If I can do it, you can do it.
So we're gonna use the German scissors here, and they are very good to curl.
It's the right amount of sharpness, but not too sharp.
Because I tried this on a couple other pairs of scissors, and they just did not work at all. They broke them, and
Well, the thing is, you have to be firm, but not too firm to break it. And each one's going to curl differently.
yeah. So here you go.
And people, you have to do these one at a time. There's no other way. Could you imagine in Hollywood that it was somebody's job just to curl all the feathers for all the costumes? And
It reminds me of the guy on YouTube that does restoration on oil paintings, and where he has to chip away old paint, and he has to scrape off. That he does it with a scalpel and does it a little bit at a time. And I'm like, I would go crazy.
well, that's what you have to do.
Yeah.
Now, according to my grandmother, I've never tried it, that if you put ostrich plumes over a hot pan of salt, they'll curl. But, you know, I've never tried it.
See how that was so much faster than what I was trying to do before. So, but these are in the shop. Definitely pick
That's
one.
what I use.
Yeah.
I use them for all kinds of things.
Okay, so I was holding these together, and then you can go ahead and arrange it however you want. So what we'll do is we'll tie them up.
And you're kind of doing a high-low thing. And you're using your little clamp, which works good.
And then now, where's my thread?
You can tell Annabelle's had a really rough day. She's really going for it.
So you can go ahead and knot it up. Try to move that.
And this really, when you curl them, you don't have to. You don't need that many little components. They fluff out, and it's kind of like we backcombed the ostrich feathers and fluffed them.
You could probably glue it to keep it in place and then let it dry. Because it's not having any of it. I just tie it up. I'm gonna wind it up.
Yeah, just wind it and.
That's the nice thing about this thing. It's a second, like a third hand. And then you can tie it all the way to the end. I've seen this tied with wires before, very, very fine wire.
They'll do it in a millinery. They'll use a lot of wire, and they will on original pieces and glue.
You just want to make sure that it's not going to come out.
We'll give a little dab of WeHaw glue and then I'll hold it in place.
I love that WeHaw.
I use mine every day. I love the little applicator and
Off. And that's it.
that's it. Okay. That's really pretty. Good job.
And then we have the veil. So this is about a 7 by 9 inch veil, and it's curved at the top. And so what you want to do is you kind of want to move this back and forth.
Like a pie crust.
Yeah. It gives it a little body.
And I think it also gives it movement. It gives it a sense of...
And then when you get to the... You can trim
You're
it.
basically kind of pulling it almost like you're ripping it, but you're not getting to the point of ripping it.
Yeah.
You're just...
It's
I
just
find
fluid.
without doing this process, it looks lifeless. You know, like a...
Yeah. So then you can go ahead and trim.
Clean it up.
Yep. I love these scissors because they're curved
And sharp.
and sharp, and they're better than seam rippers.
Well, you turned me on to those, and everybody here, you know, in the beauty department, everybody has them. I have them in all the different places I work because
And you know, like
I
when
need them.
you have a seam ripper, they start going dull right away.
They do. They really do. I mean, I use them for seam ripping, but I also just use them for all kinds of
Yeah.
things. Okay, so that looks really lovely. All right, we will get ready for the next stage, and we will be right back.
So one of the things that you have to be very important to remember is that when you're placing the hat, you have to make sure that the hair is styled in a way that shows off the hat. You can't just,
You can't just plop it on the head.
you can't you can't just do that. I mean, that's how they were. They styled their hair, and then they had the hat on. It's the same in the 1870s. They had these perfectly coiffed hairs, and then they had the hats just so. It's an ornament, so it's the same thing. They both kind
And
of.
they're not going to go take this hat off till
No.
they get home.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
they're not a gentleman.
when you
Can we see the other side, how it looks from the other
Sure.
side? Okay, looks great. And she's got a nice hat pin in there, so she doesn't have to worry about being harassed. She has her weapon.
So what you're going to do is you're going to look at her and the hat, and you're just going to place the veil and style it based off that.
Which it has to cover her face, because this is protecting her from debris and various things.
And when you're doing it like on this side, you're just kind of doing it artistically, just
Placing
making,
it. Mhm.
yeah, making little folds and making it look pretty.
You're zhuzhing it.
Yes. And then you can pin it until you sew it in place. So what we're gonna do.
You're the Ginger Rogers of sewing. You're doing it backwards.
Yeah, and then, so you'll pin it and then you'll sew it. So just kind of make sure that.
I think that looks beautiful. Mm-hmm.
And then after you've sewn it, then you can sew on the feathers. So we're gonna put one here, and then one here,
Just to top that off.
just to top it off, and then you'll sew those into place as well. So we'll get that sewn in.
And we'll show them the final
Yeah.
cut. All right, we'll be back.
So here we are, all done. It's all sewn up. You can see the back.
It's looking great. Are you happy with that?
I am. I think it came out really well.
And I love how the veil looks. And I mean, if you can imagine that in the coordinated suit, it's going to be just sensational. So good job, Angela. So I guess we will go on to the next project.
Okay.
Okay, well, we'll be back for that.
Okay, so we're going to be doing this little casket here, and we're gonna, you can see that beadings, I'm gonna finish the beading, but Michael started doing the beading.
Well, I have to have something that I can do.
Yeah.
I started it while you were doing other things.
Yes. So you're going to go into the center of the blue and grab a bead, go
Just
back.
one?
Yeah, go back under.
I went all the way through.
Oh, no, you can just go under.
Yeah, but I went all the way through. It was easy.
You could do that.
Yeah, there's no right way or wrong way. You can.
Just go in there. And it's so fast. If you get a kink, don't worry about it, because sometimes it's just these little knots, but they'll come out. And grab another one.
It's actually very therapeutic.
It is. It's a cute design. And it's very simple. You can't go wrong with it.
And it does add, it adds a little texture too. Not that this isn't textured, but it just gives it that much more.
And then we'll go back the other way to the next row. And then after that, we will overcast the edges.
It's looking really pretty.
It's really cute. I like this. Oops.
I found that I could, on each row, I could do the overcasting of the edge pretty easily. You know, just using up
Yeah.
that extra thread that you'd have here and there. I think you've got it.
Oh, that goes here. Then you go around.
I mean, this is now with all those beads sewn in place, this is not going to fall apart.
No.
It's connected.
But you still want to kind of
Yeah.
attach, make sure that the edges are nice and taut. Because after that, we'll put a ribbon around. Well, we'll do the interlining first before we do the ribbon.
All right. Well, we'll come back and we'll do the interlining next.
Okay, now that we have already gone through, finished the beadwork and overcast the edges and did the interlining, we're going to then fold this. I'm going to iron the ribbon and we're going to put it around the edge. But what we're going to do is going to make sure that we, one, cover our little stitching line, but leave just a little bit. We don't want a whole, we don't want the entire half, but we want to be able to have maybe what, about an eighth showing.
Yeah.
And then we'll stitch that around and then we'll add our trim over that. So I'm going to
Just pressing it in half.
press it, yep.
Same technique we basically did on the other, the cartwheel, but we're doing it as
I think that should be enough.
that'll be plenty, I think.
Just, yeah. Okay. So go.
And you just use a single thread, is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, we'll get this stitched in place and we will be back to show you the next step of the casket.
Okay, so now that I've gone around through the top part here, with the bottom, we're gonna go through with a running stitch and then gather it because there's still extra ribbon. So now we just wanna gather it to kind of tack it down. So I'll go do that.
You're going to do kind of smallish stitches.
Yeah. So I'm gonna line that up.
You're doing little, what about 8 per inch?
Yeah, that's, and again, gentle because this is silk.
It's delicate silk.
It's very delicate. So you want to be as gentle as possible, otherwise you'll just rip right into it.
And black dye is hard on materials.
And that's why you want to do it really gentle and use a really thin needle.
So I know you've been working on fanny costumes. How many have you done so far?
One.
One, okay.
And it's
Which one was that?
That is Rose Blanche.
Oh, okay. And you're done with that already?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
It was really, it's beautiful. It's a beautiful design.
So what would you say, comparing it to the challenge of doing a Hooray kit and doing that, what's the difference?
The scale, and as long as you know how to handle chiffon, you're fine. It could be a little daunting for maybe a beginner, but you know, there are things online where you can take little tips. Remember to kind of iron or use a wrinkle release for your chiffon before cutting into it, because if you don't prepare the fabric first before cutting, it's not gonna look right. When you cut it out, the shape is not gonna be correct. And when you cut it out, cut it on top of a bit of tissue paper.
Yeah, that works.
Yeah, and then
I mean, some people can go right into it and cut it.
Right.
And have it work. But they've had experience
yes,
doing that.
and
if you don't.
If you don't, then do these little tricks so that you're not intimidated by the fabric.
Well, I'm never intimidated by the fabric. I intimidate the fabric.
Okay, so there you go.
I'm not going to let the fabric beat me. Except we were talking off camera, except charmeuse.
Charmeuse. No.
The good news is I don't have to do charmeuse. It's not a normal doll.
Yeah, that's for big people.
Yeah.
Okay, and then I'm going to go around and tack it.
Here and there.
Yeah.
All right, well, we'll come back with the next step.
So we have a piece about, I want to say 4.5 inches. Yeah, about 4.5 inches and 2 inches and 1/8. And then you're going to kind of trim it to this almost semicircle. And then what I did was I started beading around 1/4 of an inch from the edge, and now we're going to trim it.
I'm going to trim it close.
Very close. Well,
And if we mess it up, then we have to do it again.
so be careful. I mean, the beads will kind of be your guide. There you go.
Oh, that looks beautiful.
And then afterwards.
And by the way, you could never beat it that close to the edge.
No, you.
Without doing just what you did. It would all come undone.
It just fall apart. So we're gonna attach this and probably pleat it in a few places. But we'll attach this here, and then we'll put some trim over that.
Should we probably, I think it'd probably be a good idea to fit the hat, don't you think?
Yeah, that's
And then fit the veil to her face.
yeah, so you can see. Let me set her up. So here's an ear, there's another ear.
So it's just going to protect the eyes, not the whole face.
But I think it looks good so far.
Yeah, that's going to be a little longer than we have it. But I think that's going to work. And maybe a couple of little pleats on the sides.
Yeah, right here maybe.
Yeah, I think so.
Like this.
So we're going to stitch that onto the edge of the where the black ribbon is, and then we're going to cover it with a trim, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna pin it.
And again, it's going to be lower because that hat's not going to be sitting that high up on the
No,
head.
not at all. But then you'll see here, just a little pleat and a pin, and then we'll sew it on. Add the trim, and then you'll see the full effect. Okay. It's
Oh yeah, yeah. That looks really good, and the beads add on the net just a lot of interest.
okay.
All right. So then let's see the trim that you're going to put on it, which is going to be the same.
So we're gonna then overlay this.
Oh, and that's going to make a nice finish. All right. Well, let's sew that on, and then
Right.
we'll come back and show you what it looks like when we get it all together.
Okay, so I've did little pleats on the side, sewed on the veil, and then went around and put trim around the edge. And then what we'll do next is we'll take about a 7.5-inch ribbon and some more of this trim. And what I'm gonna do is just sew in the middle, the trim on the ribbon, and then leave the bits hanging. And after we do that, we're gonna create a bow, just like a single bow, and then we're going to then put beading on this.
On the end of the trim.
Mm-hmm. And then we'll attach our feather and our bow, and we'll adorn this hat.
And we should say that the feathers don't start out that way.
No.
We trim them so that we get that kind of little Christmas tree look of a feather.
Okay.
All right, so we'll sew this, and then we will be right back to show you the results.
So I have this tapestry thread or needle. You could see it's got a very wide opening, so then you could just
Perfect for people like us.
Yeah.
Well, not us, but me. I
Yeah.
can see that.
I tried to use this one, but it's too small. I was able to get it through. This makes it easier. Where's the other?
It is right here.
But here. So we're gonna put the bead on.
And these are antique jet beads.
And you're gonna feed it through. So that's how you get it on. And what we're gonna do then is, instead of knotting it off, is we're going to
The
fold
knot
it
would be
over.
clumsy.
Yeah. And we'll sew it down here. And we'll do the same thing for the other one.
And then we'll continue to sew the trim on.
Yes.
Okay. And that's all there is to it. It's a much better idea to do it this way than have a big bulky knot on the end.
Because the knot will eventually fray.
Yeah,
And this will make it neater.
and it looks pretty.
So I'll take off this little bit of felt.
Right, that looks really good. All right, well, we'll sew the rest down, and then we'll do the application.
And now we're back for the finish. We sewed on the trim, and we took in instead of two, we put it in as one, and then we went back in and created 2 loops.
Because we
Added,
changed our mind.
yeah. I mean, when you're fitting it on a doll, you look at it and then you can make little tweaks and changes to fit how you envision things. And we added 2 beads here in the,
Hard to see because
Yeah.
they're in the black, but
they're here. And then we sewed back the trim onto the ribbon and then cut this at an angle. And then we've moved the veil taut and added this nice, beautiful hat pin on here. But you could see that we've moved the hair way in the back.
to accommodate the look.
Mm-hmm. Isn't it beautiful?
I think you did a great job, Angela. I love it. It's a wonderful contrast of the other girl. So let's put them together and see how they look. Super. They all both have their individual style.
So you see, same fabric, but different treatments.
Super. All right, well, we're going to go on to something new. We'll be back.
So we have 2 hat forms here, and we are going to cover them with this.
Because we want
black
2
mesh.
different looks.
Yes. And what we're going to do is we're going to, these are zip ties.
More of Angela's wonderful little tips.
Yeah, and I love using these because you can get really taut fit
Hold
over
on.
these.
Yeah.
And then and it'll hold onto it because it's Velcro. And so if you're gluing something and you want it to stay,
Because we have to keep
Yeah.
this, we have a grid pattern that we want to keep it as
a shape.
regular as we can.
And you can pull it as soon as you put it in there, and it'll hold, and then you can pull it as much as you want and it'll stay. So we can demonstrate that in a little bit. And then afterwards, we'll go ahead and we'll clip these around, and then we'll sew this on to the hat form.
And we're going to do that on both of these.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a day hat and we have an evening hat. And we're going to kind of decorate them the same technique on both of them.
Mm-hmm.
All right, well, we'll get this all prepped and we'll be back.
So now that we've sewn, what I've done is I've sewn around the crown at the top and then around the edge. And then when you flip it over and then you sew along the edge, the next thing you want to do is then sew around the crown. So when you're sewing around the crown, be careful to snip around here as you cut out your centerpiece, because then if you don't do that, say like right here, you want to be able to snip all these parts.
This is not an easy thing to do.
No. And
But
this
it's
would work,
doable.
yeah, and these would work good because it's not going to go, you're not going to poke into your brim. You're going to be cutting away from it. Because if you do not do that, then what happens is your
It
crown is
pulls.
going to pull through, and you're going to lose the shape. So you want to make sure you don't do that and destroy it. Afterwards, then we're going to go around and cover this edge here. We're going to go around, leaving a little bit over, because we're going to go around on the top and we're going to go on the bottom. And that way, as we're sewing, we're going to be able to then like whip both the top and the bottom together to encase this. And then after we've done that, then we can go around afterwards and do like maybe a little running stitch every now and then to kind of pull it together, because
Yeah,
it's
to
not
have a nice curve.
right. So otherwise, it's going to pucker, and that will not be pretty.
Yeah.
So we'll go ahead and
We'll do that, and the stitches should blend in with this. This is antique velvet, so ribbon, so it's soft and
It's gonna be
Yeah.
easy to work with.
It's easy to work with. As easy as we can do it.
Yes. If you're going to follow the same instructions for another hat and you don't have silk velvet, it's just not going to work.
No.
You can't use polyester because it's just too thick.
Thick. Mhm. Then I would suggest doing a make your own bias tape.
Yeah.
Which would work good. All right, we'll get this sewn and we'll be back.
Okay, so I went over the top and you could see that I've gathered, and what I'll do is when I'm going down and doing the same thing, I'll grab stuff at the top to kind of flatten everything, but I will also do the same thing. You're
going to go through the inside to the outside?
Yeah.
And then gather them, okay.
And I've already whipped most of
The edge.
the edges together. You could see it is completely closed and encased, so you're not going to get any of those little, you can see right here, these little fly bits.
Now we could have put millinery wire in the edge of this, but I don't think it necessarily needs it, do you?
No, it doesn't. But it's definitely something if you want to do millinery wire and make,
Well, it'll do that anyways.
yeah.
But if you wanted it to be never to move again.
But it's fine, you don't need to do it. It's not
So can you just show them what you're
Yeah.
doing exactly?
So it's just a whip stitch.
So you're going right to the little bit of the edge that has no plush on it, correct?
Yep. And so I'll like on here because I'm overlapping. I'm gonna grab the outside to the outside.
All right, well, I'll do that on my hat, and we'll be back to show you the when it's done.
Okay, so now that I've gone and finished the whip and done my running stitches around the edge here on the outside, I'm going to go back in so I could sew the rest of it down, and then make sure that it's going to be over here to sew it flat and just go with the curve.
So you're going to do small stitches in and out,
Yeah.
and the velvet will cover anything, won't it?
Yeah, so then you won't see that. But want to go through
To catch
the
it.
fabric to
So
catch it.
that it holds it. Because otherwise it'll tint out, won't it?
And it'll pucker. Yeah, we don't want that. So you're just going to go in, and I'll do a back stitch again.
Here and there.
Yep. And you'll see it'll flatten it up, but it'll retain the curve.
And this class is so exciting. You can hear that Annabelle is really enjoying it. And are you using your millinery needle?
Yes, I am, because again, it has give, and it's thin, and it goes right through this velvet easily.
All right, well, we'll let you sew that, and we will be back.
So I've gone and went around here, and that is stabilized, and here I also went over again, did a slip stitch just to kind of pull in the pucker so it's a little bit more flat. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add this trim along the edge here, and I will do running stitches.
You're putting it over the velvet.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I will start doing that.
And again, now are you going to do that on both sides?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
It'll look nice. Because then, if you have one part showing tilted, you could see here and then see it on here.
Yes. Yeah.
So,
And it's just a little running stitch.
yep.
That's it. All right, so we'll sew that on, and then we will come back. And this is really easy to sew on, isn't it?
Oh, so much easier. Yeah.
All right, we'll be back to show you the finished product.
And now we're going to put in the interlining, and we are going to use this black knit tool, and we're going to fold it.
And you're folding it about 1/8 of an inch.
Mm-hmm.
And you're doing it on all the edges, just like we did on the other hat, except we're using tulle.
And we'll sew it around the crown and then do a running stitch. Since it folds really nicely, you don't need like a spudger.
Yes. And it's 100% cotton, so it's going to be a dream to work with. I gave Angela a choice of this or black silk. She chose this.
I think it's gonna look nice.
Oh, it's going to look nice, but it'll be a lot less.
Yeah, a little bit less fiddly, but you know, it's gonna look better with that, I think.
So you're going to sew it right to the. Can you still feel the dip in the?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're going to sew it right to that.
To here, which is right where our little pieces here end anyway. So you'll sew into here, and then as soon as you go around, then you'll do a running stitch in here and then pull it taut.
All right, so we'll get that sewn and we will come back and show you how it looks, tell you any of the problems. We'll tell them all of our problems when we're back.
So this is a very thick feather. The base of it, the quill is.
Oh, shall we show them though what you did, what you got done?
Yeah.
So-
Here, this is how it looks, and you can see it has a different effect than just.
Silk or cotton.
It's got this kind of I don't know. It's very nice. I liked it better.
Good. So we did something new. All right. So trimming.
Yes. So for this quill here, it's very thick. I've never done this before, so we'll see how it goes.
You got to get rough.
Yeah.
So what's different is this is rougher than what we did with the ostrich plumes. This is, you almost have to break out the spine. You can hear it cracking. You're happening. It's curling. Keep curling. Look at that. See, isn't that a miracle?
Yeah, you do have to be hard on this.
You have to be very tough.
You get a nice curl.
It's a nice curl.
I'm gonna keep doing it.
Do you want to do another smaller one?
Yeah.
Maybe,
Let's do
maybe that, just to,
this one's very fluffy.
and you're going to lose some of that, which is good because then it won't look too much.
Oh. Oh.
Well, it's a shorter feather now.
It's
And you may want it to be that.
yeah. Just go with it. Happy accidents, right? Like Bob Ross. And that's fine.
Mm-hmm, that could work.
Right. So we'll just play with it. Oh, I think that might work.
Mm-hmm. And you might want to, oh yeah, that looks good. Or you might want to use the bigger one
Yeah,
too.
we could
Do
fill it out.
Oh,
Yeah.
that looks kind of nice where it comes over to the front. I like that. Now, don't we have to trim around the?
We do have to trim around here.
So what are you going to do with that velvet ribbon too?
I wonder if maybe a combination of this. We have some silk ribbon.
You want to do silk ribbon to do
I
something
think
different?
we may do a combination of black and silk, and just kind
Okay.
of maybe do a weave, just kind of
Okay.
wrapping it around.
All right. I want to see it. But we also have some peach too.
Yes.
Do you want to use the peach?
I want
maybe?
to. Yeah, I want to
Try it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's see.
All right.
A lot of it is going to be plain.
We'll get it figured out and we will come right back.
Okay, so one of the things I did here was I took the black silk, I folded it in half, and then I wrapped some pink silk around it. And we have some bows in the back. And what we're gonna do now is play with the flowers. So we did the flower placement. You could see some of this, and we're gonna show you how to curl these up and give this really cute
So
effect.
you just wound them through the
Yes.
band, okay?
And it's in there, and you can go back and then maybe sew a little bit, but you don't have to glue it because they're in there. They're woven in, and they're kind of
The
stuck.
next thing you're going to do is really going to keep them in there.
Yeah, and then you have this dramatic black feathers going from here that we curled, and in the back, and then you're gonna want to do a little
Give 'em a
trimming of
little, give them a little haircut,
your- yeah.
just a smidgy.
So we're gonna go and show you how to do these. So you want to get a really thick needle and wrap them.
And I push the,
Yeah.
the segments together, and that, yeah, there you go. That's how I do it.
And then you can cut them. Start this way.
I think this is really a nice treatment to deal with flower stems because it just gives a little extra texture, and
It's cute. It looks like little curls.
some sweet peas got in with the roses.
So we'll just play with it a little bit and add some more flowers. We have this piece that we've already done, and we'll sew this into place.
With a nice little the peachy colored rosette with the silk ribbon.
And a little bit of feather showing through, and you can see the nice cute little treatment here. And then we'll come back. So now you could see with the flowers in place, a little trimming in the feathers, what you can get.
Oh, go back. Let me see the back. It looks really nice.
The thing about trimming that you have to remember is it's all going to be individualized. You need to kind of let your creative side take hold and then just put one thing here. Maybe your feathers are going to be a little bit bigger or smaller. You know, the way it curls.
Curls better.
Yep.
Curls, or not better, but different.
Differently, and just go with the shape of the hat however you want it to form with what you have. The hat is your base. The rest of it is your idea, your creativity. But as you can see with the things like this trim, this color hat form, the trim on the edge, that's the base stuff. The rest of it, you know, up to you. And this is just what I did. Michael did something completely different at the same time. We're having lots of fun.
But the same technique.
Same technique, same.
Absolutely. Everything was the same except my shape was just different.
And let's show them what you did. Look at how beautiful this is.
But show them together because it yeah. I mean, it's just, both of them are right. They're just different. Well, that was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll be back tomorrow for more. After we clean up this mess, we've got feathers flying everywhere. All right. Bye-bye.
We have a new hat and our little model, Judy.
That's Judy. So what should we tell them about this style of a hat?
It's a basket shape, and look how pretty that is.
And the technical term would be, they would call this a peach basket.
Peach basket on this one. Oop. I like the detail.
And it's one of our original fabrics that we have made. So we're the only ones that have it. So how are you going to start this, Angela?
We are going to do the interfacing, and we're going to do it on the crease here, which you could see over here, but we're going to sew around.
And there's a little ridge.
Right there. You see?
Yeah, and can we flip it so they can see the other side?
Yeah.
And you'll kind of know, yeah, there's a ridge there, which we'll later fill in with something. Mm-hmm. And it's going to be your choice of what it's going to be filled with.
And then we'll go ahead, and then after we tack things down, then we'll go ahead with the running stitch and pull it together like we did with the other hats.
All right, so we'll do this and we'll be back to show you our results. So we're going to do what we've done with all the others, which is probably a little stab stitch.
Yeah. Because here you won't be able to bend it, so.
And these were just made, so they're going to be crispy.
It's a nice heart shape.
All right, we'll get this sewn and we will be back.
Okay, so once you've gone and you've stab stitched around and you're going to pull the center after you've done your running stitch inside, what you're going to do is you're going to go through the hat, come back up at the top, and then pull to get it tight, and then you can tie it off. And so to tie it off, you use a spudger, or you could use whatever.
A spudger works really. Boy, that's going to save me from having to ask somebody, can you help me? Because this is something that sometimes you need someone to put their finger there.
Yeah. I have my dogs, that's it, and I can't ask them.
Yeah.
There you go. And then you tie it off.
And we're going to cover that.
We're going to cover that, so it's not going to be a big deal.
Shall we show them how it's going to fit on Judy?
Sure.
So imagine Judy's going to have her wig, which is going to then be lifted up probably about 1/4 of an inch. Wouldn't you say? Probably the thickness of a wig.
Yeah.
Depending on which style of wig it is, too. All right. So what are we going to do next?
Next, we're then going to go around and we're going to cover the edge. You're going to tack it down, and it's going to be, look at that nice effect.
Darling.
Pretty. But what we're going to do is you're going to then go in between each rows, and you're going to take a little
Tiny.
tiny tuck.
What about a a little eighth of an
Yeah.
inch, or
in between each one, so it'll be pretty. You'll still see the
yeah,
roses.
we don't want to lose
No.
the detail.
So we'll go ahead and do that,
Yeah, and that's going to take a little time.
and then we could probably attach and then do a few tucks and pull, but we'll show you how it looks like afterwards. And it'll look really cute. So you've gone and tacked on this lace, and what I did was, again, a couple little pleats in between each rows, and then I just tacked it on. And when you're tacking on here, you're going to want to use a strong sharp needle, about I think a 5/10 inch, or what this one is. Yeah, this is a 10-inch sharp, because if you use your millinery, it's too thin, it'll break.
Yeah, it'll because this is a little tough sewing.
Yeah.
So we had an addendum on the lace amounts.
Yes.
And what did we ended up using?
Around 20 inches all
Okay.
around the brim of the hat.
But you managed to do that where the roses still show really nicely.
Mm-hmm. And if you find you're having problems with that, a needle puller would be a really good
Yes.
idea.
And we have those
Yeah.
available. I kind of needed a needle puller because I broke a needle doing mine.
So you're going to take about a 10-inch by 1-inch strip, fold it about an eighth around and press it. And then what we're going to do is then you're going to go and you're going to sew. You could tack it around here, and then we'll bring it
Right
up.
at the very top.
Yes, at the very top of your lace. So you're going to
So
be
you're-
covering.
Right, but you're putting right side to lace to fabric.
Right.
So
look
if you
like
lay
that.
it down, so we can.
So we're gonna.
There you go.
I'm gonna show you how to do it here. Since I still have this attached to the lace, I'm just gonna go and I'm gonna pull this down a little bit, and you can use the fold as your guide. And I'm gonna go down, pull up.
And this will probably be the hardest part,
Yeah.
the whole hat making.
And it's only hard because
It's a lot of layers.
it's just a lot of layers to go through, and that's why a needle puller would be really good if you find you're having difficulty with it. You just go around. And I'm only doing running stitches because you don't really need to. You're just tacking it down. And then you could maybe do one back stitch
Every now and then.
every now and then.
If you hear a lot of background noises, David is getting all the Fanny and Flora and Charlene and Veronique orders out. And occasionally you'll hear an exasperated sigh. All right, well, we'll finish this and then we'll show them the next step.
Okay, so where we left off was we did running stitches around here on the bottom, and then you pull up this last fold that you have, and you'll do a running stitch on that line to
the crown.
the crown to pull it all together. And then you can go in and you could do a slip stitch if you want, but it's pretty tight on here anyway, because what we're going to do next is we're going to put the ribbon over it and take little stitches, and we want to pull this down a little bit so we have fabric showing. Then we'll go around and attach it with a little bit of flea bite stitches with the matching thread, and we'll have a nice little ribbon. Okay.
Nice little band. So I want to see your little flea bite stitches.
Okay. Well, then I have to take.
Oh, you have to thread it.
I have to get a different needle because I
okay.
put the wrong needle. I'm gonna put my tiny.
Angela's young. She can thread a needle all by herself. I have to have machines.
No, this one's I already messed this one up.
And because of this amazing color, we're using antique thread because it's a color that's kind of hard to find. Well,
Yeah.
I would imagine you can find it. Aha,
Yeah.
see, she's having to use,
I have to use my.
she has to have an aid. There you go. I mean, I love the idea of what you're doing, but see, I'd have to have somebody to thread the threader in order for me to.
I already had it knotted too. So. Okay, so I'm gonna go down. I'm gonna start towards the end. Kind of match my ribbon ends, and then it'll be around here.
And then we don't have to like freak out about
No.
being so
Precise,
perfect
yeah.
because we're gonna do more to this. So are you using your millinery?
Yes, on
Okay.
this one I am because here it's a little bit softer, and then anyway you're gonna have to go all through this fabric, so you don't have to go too deep. So you could just make
Nice.
tiny ones. But I'm gonna take a bit of a jump underneath, make tiny little stitch.
All right, well, we'll get this sewn and then we will come back and show you what we've done.
Okay, so we've gone around, finished the ribbon band, and just kind of be aware as to how much you're showing up here, and just to kind of even it out. It's not going to be a big deal because we are going to be covering it up, and we will be using the WeHaul glue, and you're going to be using a whole bundle of flowers. So you do want to kind of play with it a little bit, get it to look how you want it to be, and then we'll just glue it down and we'll go through.
Yeah, there's no right way or wrong way to do it.
No.
It's how you like them
To show how you want them to be presented. It's all
Now,
up
what
to
I
you.
liked is I like to have a little bit more of the flowers lower and then having a little bit of the green show. But that just depends on however anybody wants to do it. It's a
Yeah.
it's a completely
It's a personal thing, personal taste, or just what you have, you know? So we can start gluing some of these. And some of these you're just going to glue them. You're not going to glue the whole entire thing as you go along. You'll be cutting pieces. You may just want a few flowers here or there. Again, up to you. So place it and hold it a little bit. You can probably put a pin for it to dry.
yeah, the Weon does not dry right away,
No.
but when it dries, it's there. It's not coming off.
Yeah, so here we have some
So you have a
leaves.
time to adjust.
Yep. And then we'll just go around, continue. So again, you don't need instruction for placement. That's going to be up to you. It's
Yeah,
gonna be
however you like it
how
to
you
look.
want, whatever you want covering. If you find, okay, here's a little stitch, I want to cover that up, then I'll do that. But you know, make sure that you have some of it. Do that. Be random with your placement. Don't be like, okay,
Yeah, it doesn't look
all the way
natural.
around. No,
No, it doesn't
you want
look
it to be as natural as possible.
All right, we'll go mad gluing and we'll be back. We're going to do some French hand gluing.
Okay, now that we have all of the flowers glued on, you could see how pretty that looks.
It's like a bouquet.
It is. So now, the final thing that we need to do is we need to make a large bow,
Fluffy.
a fluffy big bow like they had way back then on their hats. So we're gonna have 2 pieces of silk 10 inches long, and we're going to go ahead and do these rosettes large, and we're gonna combine both of them to make them really big and fluffy, and then we'll sew it on the hat.
Okay, so we're going to start with 10 inches, and then what are we going to end up with fold-wise? They should be, what, maybe an inch?
Yeah, I
Okay.
think so. Yeah. Yeah, it's gonna be an inch. So this is half already,
And then you're going to do it half again?
and half again.
Okay. All right, we'll get that done, and then we'll show them the final placement.
Okay, so I have finished my rosette. What I did was I placed one with inside each other and then just stitched it through. And what you're gonna wanna do is then find the place that you think it belongs. So that we have this little spot here. Here's the front of the hat and the back of the hat, and we want it to be right about here. Right here. Oh, no, right here.
Kind of nestled in there.
In there. So you're going to take a couple stitches, attach it into the side of the cap, and
You just catch it.
you just catch. And then after you've done a couple stitches, then you'll place a little bit of weehaw in there.
Just to give it that extra strength.
And one more stitch, and then I'll go through the ribbon again. Need to tie it off. And cut. Get in there with the weehaw.
Yeah, that'll just give it a little extra strength.
And then just fluff it out.
Yeah, and arrange it around the... Now we have to put it on this Floribunda on Flora. So let's get it, you get it right, facing you, and then show it to me. I think I would have it more on the top of it, yeah, a little more like this.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, like that. Almost like a, and maybe just up a little bit so they can, it's a little bit on there. So Queen Mary, eat your heart out. And while Angela's doing one, I did one too. My form was a little shorter, so mine is not as, Queen Mary wouldn't be envious of my amount of flowers, but that was really a lot of fun, Angela. So I hope you come back and do this with us again sometime.
Sure thing.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye-bye.